You're listening to the Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is January 4th, 2025. Happy New Year. Pretty crazy. How are you, David?
I'm good. Have you had to write that out yet? I haven't yet, and I'm going to mess it up the first time I write 25 out.
I didn't have to, but my boss had signed many, many documents, sealed them in envelopes, had to open them all, change them all, and then reseal it. So he did it enough for both of us.
Nice. Yeah, I'm good. Cool. I'm cold. I just got in from a hike. I probably hiked less than a mile, but I was out there for a little over an hour doing a little bit of photography. We'll talk about that later, but I'm cold.
Yeah, very cold. We kind of walked around, did a little Pokemon Go, did a little just like, let's try to get out. And
yeah,
it was like kind of nice one way up the river. And then on the way back, my whole body was like, no, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, definitely cold in Michigan, but such is January, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't really know where to begin this episode. We have a handful of different things. If you want to take it away with, I guess, either the most recent or the oldest part of your updates that you would like to start, whether it be your shooting today or what you've been up to.
Oh, I think since the last time you and I recorded, we had a couple of holidays between that episode and this. And then at the last half of Christmas Day and the week following, I got sick. So I couldn't do anything. I went out sledding with my kids at noon on Christmas. I got home and I was like, I got a sore throat. Sweet. And then I think because Christmas was on a Wednesday, right? Yeah, Thursday I was like not feeling good, but luckily I only had to roast, so I didn't have to be around people. Friday, I texted my boss when I woke up. I'm like, I am gross. I'm going to drop off these buckets of beans and I'm not going to come in today. So I took that day off. I think I even took Monday off because I think that whole stretch of days I was dead to the world. So I didn't get to do a whole lot. That was last weekend, right? Weekend before, something like that. It's been a blur.
Yeah.
So I haven't done a lot of shooting, but there has been some stuff. I think today was the first day I took the camera out to shoot since we last talked.
Okay.
Which I really wanted to do more shooting because I got a filter finally for the 28-105.
Nice.
I've never had an 82 millimeter lens before, so I have so many filters, but I've never had one for 82 millimeters. So when I got the 28-105, of course I took it to all the beautiful waterfalls around that I have since I got the lens, and I found myself in the middle of the day with lots of light, having to stop down F11, F14, F16, and you know me, I got that dirty sensor, so specks everywhere. Just, I mean, if the scene was relatively, what's the word I'm looking for? Like lots of, if it was very chaotic visually, you could hide, like some of the dust can hide in that, right?
Sure,
like,
but
sometimes that's not the case. Like if you're doing long exposures and you're stretching out the water, that chaos gets toned down. And so then you're seeing all the spots and stuff. And yes, I need to clean my sensor. It'll happen. I'm not that worried about it though. What I am excited about is this filter. So it's like, I believe it's a 4 to 8 stop. It could be a 2 to 6 stop. I'm not remembering very well because I haven't gotten to use it yet. But it's also a CPL. So it's a variable ND with a CPL on the end. I think this is it a case filter? I can't remember which one I bought. I think it's a case filter. And so I'm just excited because I've got these waterfalls that I can still access for the most part. Some of them are much harder to get to now with all the snow and ice on the way to them. And they're a little more dangerous to be around. But it's great to have a little bit of new gear to play with, right? I think we all get that way, and luckily a filter is one of the least expensive new gear things you can buy.
Yeah, for sure.
To do that for you. So I'm very excited to be able to use that. But I did get out today. We spent the day today at the Children's Museum and just like let the kids play. And I swear to you, I've been checking the weather, and every day, like for the week, the last week, the next week, Google clear outside. All the weather apps are telling me cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. I woke up today, sunshine.
Yep.
And on the weekends, I like to be able to shoot if I can. So I would have planned a sunrise if any of the apps told me there was going to be any sun, and it's been cloudy. But I woke up today and sunshine. So I was like, I'm gonna take the kids, drop them back off at home. The wife's at home. Everyone crashed out because they got to play hard, whatever. So I've had the last hour and a half of the day today to do some hiking. There's tons of trails between Ishpeming and Nagani. So I just picked one of the ORV trails that kind of join up with like mountain biking trails and hiking trails. There's a big network of them, and I did roughly a mile of that, maybe not even. The sun was going down. Uh, Google was telling me -2 degrees real feel. It was windy. It was blowing in my face. And I did take the 28 to 105 out and hiked along this icy ORV trail. And I was so, I don't know, I was like excited to find stuff. I just got done watching Michael Shaneblum videos. That dude is insane. If you watched his YouTube at all,
I'm familiar with him.
he can go in the woods. I watched he was kayaking on a lake and just like pulling out cypress trees that were growing out of the water. And he just is a master at the craft of making compositions and editing. His editing technique is just so incredible. So I was trying to channel that Michael Shaneblum, and I don't know. I'm not that. I don't have that like mastered eye yet.
Sure.
His landscape work is incredible. I highly suggest anyone listening look up Michael Shaneblum. I'm sure you've probably seen like his inverted fog images that like are over like LA or whatever. Like he's crazy. He's done a lot of astro and stuff. He's all over. But anyway, so I took some shots of like the last light of the day glowing over a hill. Lots of like birch trees. I love birch trees. So like trying to do some woodland photography, but woodland photography is already challenging. And then if you add in the fact that in the winter all the leaves are gone, so you have like less interest anyway, you really start boiling things down to like minimalist shape and form. And when it's -2 degrees, man, you get pushed. Your patience is thin, and you just want to go back home. So I was proud of myself for spending the hour and a half, but I think I took like 6 shots, maybe
Yeah.
10 actual frames, not 10 compositions, like probably like 4 comps, maybe like 2 shots each. And I don't know if any of them are any good. In fact, if you know those little photographer show and tell videos that I was doing, the reels, I made one, the third one today, and I kind of expressed that this is a photographer show and tell that I might not have any show for, but I wanted to tell people that it's still worth it to get out.
Yeah.
So I was basically like, if I don't have anything here to show you right now in this frame, sorry, but it's worth it to get out. It's still, because it's easy to be complacent when the weather's extreme and brutal and discomforting. But I was still happy to get out. I'm happy that I did, even though my bones are still chilly.
Yeah, and it takes so long to get back, especially like as we get older, our freaking the cold just lives on forever.
Yes,
but,
it does.
Yeah, there's been a fair bit of that sentiment shared around lately. About the like just get out more, and it always has a little bit to do with like New Year's resolution, a little bit to do with just everybody being around family.
Yeah.
The holidays just slamming by like a freight train. It really kind of makes, I think, a lot of people feel that moment to moment is a lot more fleeting than it feels sometimes. You get wrapped up in like the day to day, and you're like, wow, everything just drags on. But then you realize just how quick. I mean, it's already 2025, right?
Yeah.
Super crazy. So I've seen a couple of different photography videos that both share the sentiment of just get out and produce something for you, or get out and even just like have the camera with you kind of vibes.
Yeah.
A lot of like intentionality videos that have come up. I think even Matt Day did one. I'm not super familiar with his photography stuff, but it actually, I think you were talking about it, and somebody else maybe were talking about it. I don't know. But then
I wasn't, but I like his work.
Yeah, and then it was like in my recommended, and I was like, oh, that's random. So I
Yeah.
watched it, and but yeah, so get out this year. I didn't do, for the first time in a long time, a dank shots because I'm just shooting more.
Yeah.
I found myself shooting more. I guess spinning right into my most recent like fun shooting was
Yeah.
I decided to take a Godox, a giant like V8 62 on camera flash, attach it to this tiny camera,
Yeah.
my 27 mil on the A6700, which I love.
Yeah.
I found myself taking photos for work with this thing, just to try it because
Yeah.
I have really nice gear, but why not just see if I can pull it off with this, which I can. Weird, uh, but totally capable for like work social media stuff. But what's funny is the flash is like double the size of this camera. And I was like, but it's the only flash I have. I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw it on there, and I don't know if this group of friends is gonna like take to it well or not. But I'm just gonna send it and start taking some photos tonight. The reason I had started was I got some Lucky Frog beverage, and I wanted to take some that they could like post for New Year's, because their whole thing is being like a non-alcoholic replace, a no alcohol like social drink replacement, basically.
Yeah.
So their vibes are you don't need booze to have fun. And so there's parties going on, and I just wanted to do some shutter drag at like 1/4 of a second, 1/8 of a second. If you hit the flash, it freezes it, but then it'll kind of get all your lights and everything swirly and stuff. We've talked about that kind of photography before on here. It's like the de facto 2008 local like band shot. If you're gonna go
But
see
that style has come back. I've seen it in wedding photography a lot.
Oh yeah, well, and it's because it works so good. Like there's a nostalgia behind it that isn't old. Like
Right.
I think maybe for our generation it might be like a timeless vibe. Like I think it's fair
Yeah.
to say like it gives you like the feeling of like the warm, I'm having a ton of fun and the night's blurring by kind of thing, and it's so simple to do.
Yeah,
And
fun is synonymous with the look.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
usually
attached.
just, it's not like you're not sad. It's not like I'm at a
Right.
funeral doing shutter drag shots or
Right.
something.
But what a
Challenge
project that
accepted.
sounds like.
Challenge accepted. Just
Yo.
people sobbing and candles and
That is interesting. Keep that one in the back pocket.
yeah, but a lot of the friends kind of took to it. A couple of them even would pick it up, even though I hadn't suggested it, and took some photos. So I got some of me at the party, and it ended up just being like a whole lot of fun. And I really like the look. I think I was talking to my partner, and I basically was like, it's hilarious because if you like just look at the flashed image, I was kind of explaining to her how it happens,
Yeah.
just because she wanted to know like the actual mechanism of what she was looking at. And so I explained, it freezes the main frame, and then you're still dragging for about 1/4 of a second the rest of the light that the sensor's taking in, which is why you get the after images and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it takes like a couple seconds to get used to, but it's super intuitive. And once you start like learning how you're drawing and what you want to capture, and then how you want it to swirl around it, it's super simple. Like anybody
Yeah.
can do it. All you need is a flash on basically any camera. That's the best part. You can be at f8, you can be at f9. It does not matter. You don't need like a cool, fast, sharp lens. You just need a lens with flash. It turns out sharper than normal images. It's like super easy to do. Basically, you could use like a disposable pinhole lens and it'd still be sick. And in fact, it probably looks awesome. But I was explaining that, and I was like, if you look at any of the normal frame, if I didn't do any swirling, most of these photos are boring as hell.
Yeah.
Like most of them are pointless. Like I wouldn't keep them. You would look at them, they would be plain, it'd be harsh, like direct flash, but just going, it literally looks like this. And it's like you just kind of yeet it to the side after you take the photo. And man, they're gold. So Godox has released a couple of mini flashes that basically have like 5 powers to 7 powers, and it's just a manual, but it runs by the hot shoe. So when you press the shutter, it'll flash it, and it works for a bunch of different cameras. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But you set the power and you just do it, which is perfect for this type of photography. And they're like $30.
Oh,
but
wow.
they're literally like the size of like my AirPods case, or like
Whoa.
they're tiny little flashes.
That's a lot smaller than I thought.
Yeah, so it's going to be super sick on here. It'll look like kind of like the Rode like wireless video mic little port,
Sure.
the receiver, and it'll be a little flash. And I think with this 27, this is going to be my new favorite little thing ever.
Do you
Um,
still have good like diffusion like attachments you can use for those?
I don't know, but like if anything, you could put like a silicone ball on top of it if you really
Yeah.
want it to just orb out or whatever. You could
Mm-hmm.
probably, I mean, I would just make one if it didn't do what I want, but
Sure.
especially for this photography, it doesn't really need to diffuse. The harsh light's perfectly fine for it.
Sure. Yeah, for that.
So for this exact use, totally fine.
Cool.
Is the maximum power going to be good enough for like maybe a decent, more professional looking on camera flash? Probably not. But for the like disposable camera, I'm chilling with the homies or the friends are hanging out having drinks or whatever. It's going to be really sick.
Yeah, cool.
And my unofficial official hope for this year is that I both shoot more people, just way more people photography because my Instagram used to only be people,
Mhm.
and then I want to just shoot like the stuff that's happening around me more often. So if it's like 3 to 10 shots while we're playing like games, or I'm just like memeing around, I want to have some more of those photos, and I want to get better about categorizing and storing all of my footage and all of my photos.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's the thing, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So if you haven't played with photography, if you haven't played with shutter drag flash, flash photography or shutter drag flash photography, give it a shot. It's super
Yeah.
fun. It's super easy. Same with light painting, drawing your name with a flashlight or whatever. All that long
Yeah.
exposure stuff can be so fun.
It can be. Yeah. Before you get into anything else, I do think it's probably good to talk about this one thing that I think you and I both did. Um, and I haven't had a lot of experience with what I switched to yet, but I think you got the same program that I did, right?
On1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in
Let's talk
your
about this.
in your hopes to find a Lightroom alternative, you were kind of looking at all the sales going on, and you had mentioned that you had found On1, which I hadn't really heard of.
Yeah.
But it was what, like $50 or something for a perpetual license,
Sounds about right.
something like that. Something that for what I was thinking about doing with it was negligible enough if it did what I thought.
Yeah.
Looked pretty okay, so I went ahead and got it as well because at minimum I want something on. L just got a MacBook
Uh-huh.
Air, an
Yeah.
M3, and the worst thing that happened halfway through last year, actually probably later in the fall, was that trying to sort out her birds and my birds got chaotic on my system.
Oh.
Because I'm trying to like import our cameras, but like sometimes she was using like the A7 IV and I was using the A.
Oh.
So like there wasn't a good way for me to like actually have the metadata because our gear is all mine.
Right.
So if she
Did
went
you have
out,
to go through and keyword?
what I just did was like what I ended up doing was I would import all of her stuff. I would
Uh-huh.
do minor edits and crop. I would export them and delete hers and then do mine.
Oh, wow.
Because she doesn't really want to archive them. She just wants like the edits
Sure.
so she can post them and have them or whatever. And then if she wants a new bird later, she'll get them. Because I think she doesn't feel like she's like taking amazing photography yet. She's still like figuring out how to do the bird
Sure.
photography, and like they're good, and she gets some sharp, but a lot of them are like throwaways. But at least the bird is identifiable and sharp, so she
Yeah.
wants them. But it's
I was
hard,
just
right?
asking because you probably know what keywording is, right?
Yeah, you
Just
can.
you keyword your name and her name and then go back.
I could, but it's my light. The way I use Lightroom right now is I just let everything be by date, and
Sure.
it's all my photography.
Yeah.
So that's how I go through, and it was like all these days would have like all of a sudden 3,000 images,
Yeah.
and it's like
It gets to be a lot.
okay, this is actually getting, and then like to sit every time and go through them was too nuts. So I haven't dug on this On1 a ton besides doing some light editing. It covers all the basic stuff.
Yeah.
So it does a really good job with exposure. It actually has a mid-tone slider, which is so sick.
You said that and I played with it. I'm like, where has this been?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, so Lightroom doesn't have a mid-tone slider, which is ridiculous. But there's a lot more that this doesn't have over Lightroom, so I'm not gonna
Correct.
poo-poo it too bad. But the thing that I found instantly, which I think is for like a more casual user, the way I'm gonna have Elle do her workflow, that I really like about it is that within it, you can just use your computer's directory and you can just search all the raws and you can edit them where they stand. And I assume like the XMP or whatever is just in the folder with it for whatever you do for the edits and whatnot, is how like the edit would resolve on your system. But I think it'll be really easy for her in the way she does stuff, because she's not going to be doing other photography. Like she's going to have bird photos on her thing, maybe like a couple randoms, but new folder, the date, the place, and then she puts them in, and then she names the bird for the files, and then she can go in and just edit them where they stand, export the JPEGs that she wants, and then put some on Berta or wherever else she's putting her photos. Have final folders and stuff like that. But I think it'll, and in fact, she could throw away the JPEGs if she really wanted to at that point and just keep her RAWs, or vice versa, whatever she wants for her system. But I'm going to have her edit them all on her. She has a Samsung T5 or a T7 or whatever, and I'm just going to have her organize each day by day, name whatever she wants, what session she was doing, and I think it'll be super easy. I really liked that aspect of it, because like right now with Lightroom, I don't build catalogs out how like wedding photographers do. Some wedding photographers will do like a new catalog for a big project.
Oh, dude, I think 90% of people don't do it the way that it could be done to the most like organized structure like those people do.
Yeah. So like if there are pros that are crushing me when it comes to like their file management, I literally have a catalog, and I have every year and then every day.
I think that's most people.
Yeah, and I'll go through, and if it's like a certain project, I will batch them into a folder. Like I do the Tactical Rescue Challenge every year, so I'll take all those photos, instead of having them in the couple of days that we do it, I dump that in a folder so I can still go find those raws.
See, I just use Smart Collections for that.
See, I don't even use Smart Collections. Like I still am such a freaking old man that I just want like physical folders that do exactly what I do. I don't know this newfangled smart keyword metadata. But I normally just know like, oh, TRC was August 10th of 2023. I'll go in and click it and it's there. But then that's getting really challenging with birds and stuff. So I do want to up my game a little bit when it comes to all of that. And On1 seems pretty dope. It can go on two systems, so I'll have it on my laptop and her laptop. And I'll probably, like, I'm considering doing all of my birds in 2025 on On1.
So are you doing do you still have your Adobe's account?
I can't get rid of it yet. No.
You can't. So you're like in tandem.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on just using birds in On1, and then all of my normal project photography is going to be in Lightroom for now.
Gotcha.
Because I'm not going to get rid of Photoshop yet. I can't do it, and I'm still paying a really nice price for the whole suite. So until that goes away, I'm not being forced out yet.
So you're talking to an idiot who's been paying for the 1 terabyte photography plan for years, and
doesn't
without realizing. I've never, literally never once put an image into their cloud service, which means I've been overpaying by double for years.
Yeah,
and I was not happy when I realized that I could have been on a cheaper plan,
the $9.99 annual plan.
$9.99. I like, in my head, I kind of like knew it was there, but I detached from the fact that I was paying this other price. Because I think a year ago I was paying like 30 something, it might have been like 35, and then I did the threaten to quit thing and got it down to 20 or something. I don't know, man. All I realized is I'm done. I quit. I uninstalled everything Adobe. There's no Photoshop. There's no Lightroom. The catalog's gone. I just archived the raw files onto the hard drives. I'm done. I bought On1, and I'm absolutely done with it. I don't mind the subscription model so much, because yes, I came from the CS2, CS3, CS4 days, where you had to pay hundreds of dollars for the new version. That's not new, and so to stay up always, it's not terrible. But we are now living in a world where you have good alternatives.
Yeah,
they're not at parity everywhere.
Right.
But On1 does Lightroom, I think, to a very close degree.
Sure.
in most aspects of the way I used it. I haven't run, let's say, like a commercial shoot through it. I haven't done one, and I have one coming up in 3 weeks, so that'll be really interesting. But it does what I did with Lightroom. Like, uh, I I have a hard time believing that $50 isn't going to be like the best way I saved money in 2025.
Sure.
Um, so I think it's normally $100. That's a holiday sale. So like if you're looking at it now, I don't know if it's still running. I'm not saying go buy it because I don't have the experience with it yet to be like it's the best thing. Drop Adobe, but I was just sick of paying that. So I'm gonna save a ton of money. I'm gonna learn on one. I've watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials. It seems very, very adequate, and I've used it. The editing is fine. What it doesn't have is, the AI noise reduction, which I used very little anyway.
Sure.
If I needed to use it, then I guess I'm out for that. But before AI noise reduction was there, I was making pretty good work, So I'm okay with that. Photoshop, yeah, it's probably going to be a hit sometimes, but I'm going to deal with it and we'll see how it goes. If I'm hurting bad enough, it's always going to be there,
Yeah. Well, and so what's the deal with I'd have to look at it again, but if it's cheaper to just have Photoshop over the package that you were paying for, or if you end up like, I don't even know, like maybe you just get it for a month and do a big project or something. You can bake that into a project and say, okay, I'm gonna pay for Adobe for this month for $20, and then that's it. And I'm getting paid for this project, so I don't care. Rather than just always paying for it and like, oh, so 3 months I didn't have a project at all, but I paid for it, and then that's kind of how people justify it. Obviously, it's a small price to pay if every single month you're making a bunch of money off it. But if you're
I'm not anymore. I did the commercial shoot, and like there are more coming, but it's not my full-time gig anymore.
Right.
So if I could save a couple $100 for the year, I'm happy about that. It's On1. I'm excited to learn it. I'm excited to like find the flaws, and see where those pain points are, and see if the same pain points match up to where they were in Lightroom or where they differ. But there were other programs I was looking at. Affinity was running a sale. I think it was like over Black Friday time, and I just missed it because I think they go on 50% discount like once or twice a year. And I did download the trial for Affinity Photo V2, and it is a pretty good Photoshop alternative. I'm sure they're missing some of the like very niche AI stuff that Photoshop now has.
Yeah.
But I was using that and thinking, oh, this could be the thing that replaces Photoshop. However, I missed the sale, and I what I really want is to get the full suite, because I actually would really like to get their publisher app as well, because it looks like a good Adobe InDesign alternative. And I really would like to have that, because there's some projects that I would like to get started with a program like that. So I'm waiting for their 50% off sale to get that again. But Affinity Photo V2 looks totally viable as well. And if you do buy the full suite, it's a universal license for both Mac, Windows, and as many devices as you want, which is really cool. And they have an iPad version, which is a lot cheaper too. So Affinity is an option, but what Affinity Photo didn't have is Lightroom's ability to catalog.
Yeah.
Importing, cataloging, organizing the structure.
And, the thing that like it is a necessity for like regular photography and doing a bunch of stuff is being able to organize things easily and do basic edits in your organization. Like that's where Lightroom crushed it, and why I can't go away. On1 does that, which is great.
On1 does.
And let's be honest, 1,000,000% you don't need the nice features from Adobe just to do social media.
Right.
If you're doing social media posts, like for Dead River, there's not a single time you're going to require AI anything. You're taking nice images of real stuff. You're not doing anything crazy. Like all of your touch-ups, everything could be done in even a lesser program than On1, I'm sure. Yeah. So, you just have the cataloging and a little bit of extra horsepower, which is great. I was
delighted to see. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the only time I could see you like really, really wanting potentially more is if you end up having like a really spectacular wildlife thing and you're, maybe getting into some really heavy comps and you're like, wow, I actually went on, you went on a trip and you did some really, really gnarly photography, then maybe you're gonna start pushing the horsepower. But that's a couple times a year for me anyway.
Right.
Like where I
Yeah.
really need the horsepower, where I'm like, oh, I'm getting into a Photoshop like edit right now.
Yeah. And so like we get on these podcasts and I say like, "Oh, I haven't shot since the last time we talked." My brain just forgets that I use my camera at work most days.
Yeah.
And so I have shot, and I was delighted to see that On1 has a companion mobile app that
Oh,
does a
okay,
lot
yeah,
of what Lightroom Mobile does. And I actually used Lightroom Mobile quite a lot at the cafe where I didn't want to pull the laptop out and transfer and stuff. Um, because I just would rather do it on my phone. It's much more quick if it's for just social posts, basically.
yeah,
So On1 has that, which is nice. I think there was a couple little bugs that I exploited and found that could cause a crash or a hang up here or there. But now I know about them and I know how to work through it. And I don't know. I haven't used it in a long time. I don't know if it gets regular updates or not, but it's nice to have. So On1, Adobe, I'm done. We're gonna see how On1 goes, and then I might end up also picking up the Affinity programs to go with it eventually. I'm waiting. I know Lisa would also like to have the publisher program for some of the stuff she does, so I'm eventually probably also going to pick up Affinity. Of course, there's other what's the open source programs, the free ones. Darktable I was playing with for the last couple of months and really trying to get a handle on whether it was going to be robust enough, quick enough, a good alternative for Lightroom, because that's what it's supposed to be, open source, free alternative to Lightroom.
yeah.
And I couldn't love it. The UI is clunky to me, and there's a lot of people out there who do use it, and I'm probably not your friend right now, but I just didn't love Darktable.
Yeah. Well, and then there's stuff like GIMP too and stuff, right?
Yeah,
That like
I
people
know
have
a couple
used.
GIMP users,
Yeah, I do
and I don't
too.
know how they do it.
I don't either. I haven't used it in probably 10 years now, but I'm
Yeah,
sure like they
yeah.
probably have like some functionality that you can't get easily in something like On1 maybe for, I don't even know, drawing or art stuff probably,
Well,
but
I don't know, dude. I just saw like an advertisement for GIMP, like the newest one is getting destruction-free editing, and I'm like, it's 2025. What? We've had this for a long time in other I don't know. Anyway, I'm sure you you love GIMP if you're listening and listening and using it. But I tried it once and I was like, ugh, this is a little rough. That was way back in like probably like CS5 days or something. So that's probably pretty early on in GIMP's life cycle. But On1 seems fine. It does the Lightroom thing, and I'm happy about that.
yeah, I think maybe I'll try to commit to running a few more tests through it for some shoots this week at work and just see how maybe have a follow up so we can kind of fill some people in, because I'm absolutely certain there's at least a listener or two that's like, I can't afford to have, I have like an old broken version of like CS4 or something, and
Right.
and I'd like something different because it's just
Well,
expensive. Like
it is, and some of what you pay for is like a new camera comes out, immediate support
right,
essentially. Like there's like there are headaches you can avoid using Adobe's programs,
right,
but also if you're a power user, there's headaches you're gonna find too.
yeah.
Um,
Well, and here's the thing too,
so
like if you're worried about new camera support, you're not sweating Adobe costs,
you're right.
because you're
You're
buying new
right.
cameras when they come out. Like that's a different vibe. So like I think like the more realistic user is like, dude, I'm still in a Sony A7 III, love it.
Yeah.
Because where I wish I was, because it's my job to do photography. I wish I was just doing it because it's fun, and I wish like the only camera I had was my 7S III, and I was like, oh, I'm thriving, my life is amazing. But I don't, because my brain is broken and I've killed it. Do not succumb to gas. It's stupid.
I don't think most people can help it. You certainly can't help it.
I can't. I'm like an addict. I like fiend for it. I almost switched
Uh-huh.
to Nikon on the first already. Like it's
I
not
know.
great. Yeah. So anyway, I do think this could be a pretty awesome way to pay up front and have like a cataloger for a good long while if you're doing simple stuff. I mean, you could absolutely do all the normal edits I do for social media on this thing
Yeah.
and be totally happy.
Yeah, I have been using it. Like the editing so far, it's fluid.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's actually intuitive. Like it doesn't feel like a faraway third-party app you really have to like dig in and learn, and like you really don't have to like bear down and deal with headaches. I'm actually like, okay, this is intuitive. This is what I expected as an alternative, and I'm enjoying it so far. So
Yeah. Hey
that's that.
Adobe, if you're listening, which you're not, if you add a mid-tone slider to Lightroom, I'll commit for another year.
That's
Um,
oh my. All right.
It's a good slider. All I'm saying is I was really hype about it. I
Yeah,
love my
it's nice to
mid-tones.
have. I mean, you can do most of that in the curves panel, right? Can't you?
Well, yeah, but it's nice to, my workflow is
Slider,
such that I
slider. I
that I
know.
go top to bottom, and
Yeah.
I do my micro adjustments. Then I kind of tweak. my luminance tone with the curves, and
Sure.
I get my exposure how I want it with the sliders. So
Yeah. Very cool.
it is what it is. Yeah, I think I have kind of like a potential thing, but did you want to talk about a follow up
Oh yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
potentially meeting up with folks?
Yeah. This is exciting. Marquette people of the north up here in the cold. Um, I've reached out to a bunch of people. Some of them may be listeners, maybe some of them are not. But this is exciting for me. At first, I had this desire to have people maybe come to the cafe. We just hang out, chat, maybe go on photo walks. My my boss loosely was like, "We need ideas for how to get more customers in," and I was like, "I don't know. I could organize some photography thing and bring people in, and then use that as a hub." But I reached out to one person who had a similar idea, and they so happen to be opening this week a shop downtown in Marquette. It's Second Story Studio, and they're on Washington Street. And so if you're listening, they're having their grand opening. I believe was either this Friday or next Friday. And so it's like a husband and wife, and it's Kurt Babcock and his wife Taryn, and Kurt is the photographer, and Taryn does like other multimedia art. I think she does like painting, and she has a bunch of pieces. This is really cool. Do you know the device that Polaroid makes, where you could put your iPhone on top, and then it creates a Polaroid from your iPhone photo? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
So she's got a bunch of these framed lifted emulsions. So like she takes fresh Polaroids and does the emulsion lift, and then frames that. And so she took a bunch of like Kurt's wildlife photos and did that. And so like she's got like 100 of them on the wall. And as a series, I was like, this is so cool. And so they've got a bunch of ideas for like how they're gonna run this shop. They got a little retail space. He's got a big printer, so he's gonna offer print services, and they're selling like blank canvases and all these things that like you want your small town to have this kind of shop. You don't want to have to go to Michael's. You don't want to have to buy on Amazon, because if you can support a small business in your town, keep that money in town. It keeps your local art communities supported. I mean, you couldn't ask for something better. So I love that Kurt and Taryn have this shop opening. And so with that said, Kurt wanted to get a bunch of photographers together and start some kind of club. And I was like, hey, I got people who are interested in some kind of club. Let's take the people that I got and the people that you got, smash them together and see what we can do. And so January 18th, a Saturday at 11 a.m., we are meeting for the first time. I have people who are committed. I'm messaging all kinds, like the president of the photo club at NMU and a bunch of the people that I've shot with before, or I admire their work on Instagram, who are local to Marquette County. They all have said, yeah, I'm interested. I'll be there. So suddenly we have a bunch of like, it could be like a dozen people on the first day.
Yeah.
We're gonna do like a meet and greet and hang out and chat and try to form some kind of like goal set and structure. Kurt has wanted to he wants to do like a monthly challenge. This will be like I think once a month or so,
Sure.
where we just meet on like a Saturday morning or something. And he wants to do like challenges, and then like he's offering to like print some people's work while we're there, which is like super cool. And where we were at one time, just a bunch of scattered photographers doing our own thing, we can come together and man, that's great.
It's really really awesome. But as like they call me Tom Petty, because I'm petty. I'm so bummed out because this is like one of my main goals I wanted to do, and you did it in like 8 seconds. I was like, oh, this year I really want to try to like build a little bit more of a community. I was like looking at a shop, I'm like checking out Lansing or whatever. And you're like, hey, dude, by the way, like all these dudes are coming together, and I like made this entire coalition. And I was like,
let me tell you, I'm so sorry.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I love it for you, but yeah.
I sent out like 6 or 7 messages, and I'm like, oh man, it'd be awesome if like one person would like be like,
come
I'm
get
down.
coffee and hang.
Literally every single one of them was like, oh yeah, I've been looking for this. I want this. Yes.
I think a lot of people do. Like, I think people want to like stop looking at their phone and like who are all the people that I want to actually talk to? How can I like be involved with people that don't suck? Like, you know, everyone is incredibly lonely online. Go see humans IRL. Jesus.
At the same time, how lucky am I that one of the people I've been talking to just is opening up this space.
That's so sick, yeah.
We have access to just a place that is meant for art, that we can all come together, we can see art, talk about art, and then between that, which is only 2 blocks away from Dead River Coffee, like Dead River, the cafe, we have access to 2 hubs that we can essentially go between, either for meeting or, you know, walk one way and then do a photo walk and end at the other. We have opportunities to do some really cool things. And so if you're listening to this living up in the north of Marquette County, you can find me on Instagram at _David Sargent and send me a message if you're interested. But we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, well, and it's sweet. Like, and your location is so dope to have like a handful of really good people on board in general, because you're not in a place where it could get too out of control.
Right.
Like you'll just get like people really involved, and there will be enough people.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you were to do, I mean, it's even dangerous here in Lansing because it's such a popular, like it's the capital of our state. And if like, you know, things are really, I have started many groups, you know, community groups in the past, and all of them ended by getting too many people involved and too much chaos happening and stuff like that. But I think you're probably really safe with your location for that regard, which is awesome.
That, and we're starting off by curating exactly who we're personally messaging to get their interest. And these people, I admire their work. Right. I mean, we all live within, you know, 20 minutes of each other. I see Rufa going out doing awesome astrophotography all the time. I just met the president of the photo club. I think his name's Turner Miles on Instagram. If you look for him, his work is awesome. And then, of course, through networking, he also runs a photo club that I think it exists for them like to inherit. So like when they graduate, somebody else comes in and takes it over, something like that. So there's like a bunch of people that have networked through that photo club. So there's a lot of opportunity for it to grow, but we're starting off with who we know, who we admire, and who we just want to be, you know, closer to. And I'm just so excited. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I feel that. I still am entirely new to this new town, so it's going to be a little longer for me to. But it's I'm going to try and come up when it's warmer, to come hang out, and we can maybe do another live episode, and then like, you know, hang out and maybe go shoot with some people. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's really great news. In the same vein as the party pictures and other random things, and again, instant photography, did you see the Lomography instant wide glass camera?
I did. I watched the video. Yes.
Yeah. I kind of want one.
Dude, I wanted the Instax wide when that came out, and Target has one. They just like have one, and I eyeball it every time. But I saw this video and I was like, oh, that's even more
Because
interesting.
it's like kind of nice, and some of the features for like the like having a little bit of control over, I can't remember if it's like aperture.
Yeah,
I think you can go from like f8 to like f22 or something like that.
sure.
It's like kind of sick. So
That's why I like the Polaroid One Step Plus, dude. I
yeah,
can control shutter speed. I can control aperture. It's so cool. I'm gonna stop right there. Yes, I saw the
yeah,
thing and I wanted it too.
yeah. You
Oh,
know,
you just
so
yeah.
sub $300. I think I'm gonna kind of look into it a little bit more because I like the wide
And I
format.
love the look.
Yeah.
It looks great.
What was crazy to me is a 90 millimeter equivalent lens was a little wild, but
Oh wow,
so
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a portrait camera, which is kind of sick, but I think that's why I kind of like it. Um,
Yeah,
I've been kind of looking at it.
it's
Lomography's kind of
unique.
nuts. They do some wild stuff, but I think that'd be a cool way to have. I think like I was trying to finish my last film roll. I think I'm done shooting film, like 35 millimeter film, just because it's like prohibitively expensive. I thought I was going to get back into it. I've talked myself completely out of it because I think what I want from film is instant film. I think I've always wanted instant film, and I just didn't
That's
do
where
it.
I landed. Yeah.
So I'm starting to journal again, which is a big project that I'm going to do this year. So I'm just got these like craft paper books, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to print like just simple black and white or color, whatever, from like an inkjet at work, like photos that I like. I'm going to start pasting them in these pages, writing stuff, and like trying to. I think I need to reconnect with like actually writing and actually
Mm,
storytelling, whether it be just something so simple like telling the story of a simple ass photo that I made. Because like I
yeah.
used to be a writer,
Hmm.
and being on social media, texting, and frankly, I'm a 32-year-old Zoomer. So like half of the language I use is insane.
Yeah.
I need to like re-engage with like the 19-year-old me who like was a snobby book reading, wannabe author. And I need to engage with that, so that's going to be a part of it. But I think having an instant camera for that would make these journals so sick on top of just like printing on, normal white plain paper images that I take throughout the year and really reflecting and writing on stuff.
So let me ask you this then, because I, like so many people, have a big old box of the Polaroids that I've taken.
Yeah.
I committed myself to never putting. I think. Oh, let me make sure. I think that I committed myself to never putting that work online, and so it literally exists for no one to see.
Sure.
I'm curious. Do you think you'd have a plan? Because I like the fact that you want to journal and you want to paste images. Um, do you have a vision for how a collection of instant photos would go for you?
The only thing that I could possibly conceptualize doing outside of personal journaling with them or giving them to people at a party or like whatever would be I do kind of want to revisit trying to like I don't know if I want to do it like I pre-order like a quarterly. I want to do a freaking zine. I've been wanting to do a zine for many years. And I think as a part of the zine
Ooh, I like that.
having scans of instance for it when it makes sense for what I'm putting in that particular story. Like if it's like a instant BTS photo or if it's like something that is like kind of applicable or if it was like a found I don't know, like a something to do because I basically the concept is that I either me or a few friends that I choose kind of come together with a body of work that we've worked on for the quarter, and I kind of get it slammed together in a zine and maybe order 25 copies and either give them out or ask people if they want to pay what I paid to make them to have them.
Hmm.
I don't need to profit off them. I don't really care. I just want a way to tangibly give someone work that I worked on for like a
Yeah.
quarter and say, hey, I made this.
Yeah.
And like, hey, I want you to have it. Or it'd be awesome if you wanted to pay what you want to pay. If it's $1 or 50 cents, or if you want to pay exactly what I paid to make it, cool. But something like that would be sweet. It'd be cool if I could drop ship, but that's kind of a lot more.
Sure.
And we'll talk about some other plans that I want to do with Light Overtime later, but this is one of them. Would be
Yeah.
to zine up, and I think instant film is great for that.
I
Um,
agree. That's a great idea.
Yeah, but otherwise, like, I wouldn't just be like scanning these and posting them on anything but maybe Instagram stories. Like,
And that's all I did. I'm remembering now that when I first got the One Step Plus and was doing a lot of Polaroid work, I posted my experiences in some of the results on stories just to kind of like see if anybody was out there also working with that stuff, because there were some challenges to that I had to realize, like Polaroid chemistry in particular is not as good as Fuji's chemistry for instant film. And so like working with extreme temperatures is really really challenging for Polaroid. But yes, I remember posting some things to stories, but now that they're all in a box, I love looking at them and I'm like, I wish I had ideas for what I could do
yeah.
with more of that going forward. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah. Well, and like I'm sentimental. I have like 2 or 3 little totes of just like trinkets and stuff that I've had for years. And I
Yeah.
look at them every handful of months.
Yeah.
And I actually have a photo that Jack, your brother-in-law, took
Yeah.
when we were at NCMC in my dorm
Yeah.
of one of our mutual friends who was a resident there. And I don't know, it's not even particularly good or meaningful, but
Yeah.
he took it was funny and I like kept it, and so it's in my pile
Absolutely.
of stuff. And I just right then flashes back to like playing with the dev kit, like VR headset and all the wild stuff from like 2013.
Yeah.
So it's pretty epic. And I just want more of that. I think that'd be great. Leading from that to interesting conversation that was really fun to be a part of. I was basically a fly on the wall for it, but it was at Christmas, I believe. And I was listening to my future sister-in-law try to explain to her father why she's shooting film. A guy who grew up using film because that's what they had for cameras and stuff like that. And it was like the most beautiful, because it could go either way, right?
Uh-huh.
Some older people are like, it's nothing's quite like the old thing. Total opposite. He like pulls out his iPhone and he takes like a really bad photo and he's like, see, and that didn't cost me anything. I can delete it. I can, in fact, and he texts it to her and he's like, see, I sent it to you for
Oh
free.
my goodness.
And he's just like trying to dunk on her the whole time. But the interesting thing, why I found it so like endearing, was she's not particularly a photographer. It wasn't like she's not like even like trying to be hipstery about like having certain film or whatever. She has like a sick old point and shoot thing that has a flash, and she just takes photos of like her nephews and stuff like that. And she just has always kind of done it for a little while and likes it.
Wow.
And like that was her. She was like, I don't know, it's just kind of nice. I like to like wait. I like to like get them back later. Didn't have like a whole lot of vocabulary to strongly have a reason
Dude,
for doing it, other than it just felt right and she enjoyed it. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking
you know what
about.
though? Like I think back in like the 80s and 90s, and probably the early 2000s, you could call someone who's doing that not a photographer, but if you're doing that in 2025, you're a goddamn photographer.
Yeah, it's sick.
It's awesome.
Yeah, because you're
That
like
is so cool.
you're legitimately capturing moments. You have to choose when you want to do it, and if you're
Yes.
committed enough to carry it around for like all the time, then that's what a photographer was.
And pay to see 36 photos.
Yeah.
Like holy crap.
So it was sick. Anyway, it was wild to just look, because I threw in a couple of like punches one way or the other or whatever, and
Sure.
I was like, I don't know, man, like it's sick, like it's a vibe.
That is so cool. I love that for her.
Yeah. So again, leading to I do really respect that, but I'm done paying like $25 to get like half of my roll like was overexposed, and like I just or like I open the back of the camera at some point and don't even remember it, and light leaks everywhere. And
none of my 35 mil cameras are calibrated at all, so
Sure.
every roll I shoot is a crap shoot.
Yeah.
And some of it is expired film, and I'm like, I can't. It's like way too risky to just continue to dump money into. So I'm there with you.
Yeah.
And that's
like,
why I switched to instant.
Yeah, all of my stuff is like hand me down, kind of like bought used. Like I didn't like invest in a nice I wasn't gonna do that, because the point was to not do it expensively. And every time I don't know that I've gotten 36 shots back every single time.
Right.
I think I'm closer to like 20. Like some of them will just be like white frames because like I don't even know what happened, or like my Zenit broke twice. I fixed it twice and it almost ate a roll both of the times. I had a Canon AE1 that completely ate a roll,
Yeah.
And half of those images were shot during my best friend's wedding, so that put a really sour taste in my mouth.
Yes.
And I was like, I just can't keep doing this. So
I
at
would
least,
recommend. I mean, if you're gonna go the instant route, and you like that lomography look and the way I think I would like it too, just do it. I have a bunch of Polaroid cameras from like the 80s, 90s, like 70s, like old stuff. They don't last forever. Like they still function, but those cameras have eaten film
yeah,
also. And so if you don't like the feeling of losing out on like 35 mil as well, just go with the new stuff because
right,
they give you the same feel. They're
right,
doing the same thing. The
yeah,
SX70 is a little special for its function, and I love that camera, but it too eats film on occasion.
yeah.
So I kind of want to grab that thing too. That looks really cool.
Yeah, I think it's sweet, and I think like I don't know, in the long run, I don't think that's a whole lot of cash for maybe I grab a few boxes of film and it's kind of cool, and then I sell it on marketplace for $50 less than what I bought it for or whatever.
Well,
But
I
I
also
do,
like that Instax wide format size, that
yeah,
ratio, that size. It's awesome.
yeah.
Really cool.
That freaking camera's a chonker though, but
Sure.
the Lomo one looks sick. It's so
Yeah.
cool looking. Like you're gonna pull that out, and it feels like you're about to take like a sick medium format image, and it's just this like dingleberry little instant shot. I don't know. I'm into it, and I think it'll be fun.
I might do it with you.
Yeah, it'll be sweet. The last thing that I had for this week, kind of wrapping up, was the Canon roadmap for this year is potentially crazy. Like, it felt like they like tried to do. They're like the R1 and the R5 II, and it was just kind of pro, and everyone's like, yeah, sweet. We were waiting, but they could potentially do an R3 II, an R6 III, and an R7 II all this year,
Yeah.
which would be
I
like the most accessible full frame camera, their professional APS-C camera, and their like basically the R3, which everybody said was just as good as the R1. Why would you spend the more money?
I would be shocked if they did an R3 Mark II in 2025. And I honestly am not sure who's asking for that right now. I don't know like what that lineup confuses me.
Dude, Canon
It's
confuses
still
me.
everybody who knows what this camera is knows that it should have been the R1, and the R1 should have been the R1 Mark II if the R3 was the R1. So what does an R3 Mark II even look like? You know, I don't know. So if they do it, cool. I'm never gonna argue with more options for photographers. But I'd be shocked if that came now already. But I would like to see an R6 Mark III and an R7 Mark II. Those cameras
I want to
are
see what
in a good
that
spot.
looks like. Yeah, well, the R6
Yeah,
III is going to be the main competitor for what you and I do. For
that's
like
gonna be a
the
sick camera.
it's going to inform, I think, Sony for their A7 V. I think
Yeah,
they're both of those cameras are kind of due this year, and they're
just like the
looking
Z6 III did
well, and
as
they're on the
well.
coattails of the Z6 III, so they're going to
Yeah,
go, okay, how are they going to compete with that thing?
right.
That's pretty crazy. But also, like, I would like to see. I don't think they're going to do it because I think they've kind of proven that they don't care. But I want to see Canon do like APS-C seriously.
Yeah.
Um, I legitimately think that the A6700. This is the first APS-C camera Sony did. That's sick. If this was in an A7 body, if they did like a pro, basically the R7 as like a pro bodied APS-C, I would consider one. I think they're
So
incredible.
Sony's the only company right now really providing a camera system that you can get into on a budget for APS-C. Like
Right.
Fuji's out there, of course, but you're going to
But
pay a little bit of a
you don't
premium.
go up to anything really, right? Like
Correct.
you're
Correct.
you're jumping into the best system, and their like their like lower bodies are still $1,000. They're
Sure.
$900 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And so Nikon and Canon, it definitely has felt like since they switched to mirrorless, they allocated a little bit too much attention to full frame for too long.
Yeah.
And APS-C, like if you had, let's say, 5 years ago, you had like a D30-200 or like a T3i because those are so popular. But they're definitely on their last legs now, right? what are your options if you want to go into APS-C now? You got the Z50 Mark II, which just came out. It seems like a fine camera, but not many other options.
Yeah, but you and I are also unfortunately so disconnected from a consumer photographer perspective that it gets kind of challenging to really see what people are doing. But like Asia loves the super cheap Canons.
Sure,
So like they buy the R100 and stuff. Like those cameras sell like hotcakes. They were selling
sure.
whatever the APS-C DSLRs were in the sale numbers of mirrorless up until the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So I don't know why Canon has been so reluctant to support them and giving them good glass. Because
right.
like at least Sony has like actual APS-C glass. They haven't updated it for a while, but they have a 16 to 55 f2.8. They have a 70 to 350 that's APS-C only and like pretty sharp. Like people like it.
And
And
their lens mount has been open for a long time for third party to
yeah,
supply it as well.
yeah,
And so that's that's really the reason why it works so well.
yeah. Well, yeah, and then when you're looking at like how good Sigma's full frame stuff is for the price of APS-C stuff, like it's the price of like a normal Fuji lens. So why
Yeah,
wouldn't you just go get the full frame equivalent or whatever if you plan to move up? There's just a
right.
lot more movement. So like I could see maybe Canon start filling the gaps, but the R7 is in a weird spot where it's like, are you going to stick to the 7D Mark II, like I'm a pro birder camera and keep it a little bit out of beginners' hands and then still not support it with APS-C glass? Or, are we going to see more wildlife lenses from them that are on the lower end that aren't f11 primes and like just totally
Yeah,
weird stuff, right?
yeah.
But
I,
again, Canon doing well means Sony gets a fire under their ass. So I'd like
yeah.
to see them start batting home runs and then make the people that I'm invested in sweat a little.
Yeah, I can only stare at the A9 III Mark II and the A1 Mark II, whatever those crazy bodies are, for too long before I get mad that I still have an A7 IV. But that's the most updated body in that lineup, and I feel like it's not exactly gas, but it does feel like, man, this camera, it still does everything I want. It's still a great camera, and 5 years from now, there's plenty of people who are going to be buying A7 IV still because it's a great camera. God dang it! Like I'm like, where's the AI autofocus for me now? Like I feel like I'm a generation behind,
Yeah.
and which is funny because when it comes to camera updates for Sony. We can talk about what you think the A7 V is going to look like, but I recently have been hearing people talk about new sensor this and like processing power upgrades, and I'm like, okay, it would break tradition for Sony, right? To do, let's say, a 45 megapixel sensor in the A7 V when they traditionally reuse sensors.
Yeah.
And the A7 IV sensor was new for its time. And it was otherwise a relatively minor refresh on the A7 III, mostly ergonomically. The body design, I think, was where the value was for me. The sensor's nice, and I have said in the past, I would be totally fine with an A7 V that had the same sensor. But now I'm hearing rumors of upgraded sensors on A7 V. So I think there may be opportunity. We may see an A7 V that really fires back at the Z6 III and whatever the R6 III could be.
Well, and that's gonna have to happen
I
because
think so.
the readout speed, it's not just the processing, it's gonna be the readout speed of the 33 megapixels gonna stop you from hitting like the 20 or even the 15 FPS that I think that we should probably get on the A5 to like kind of start competing a little bit and like throw blows with that like line of camera. It can't be 10 again. It really can't be 10 again.
It can't be.
And it's not going to be 30 and it's not going to be like a ton or whatever. That's fine. Who cares? But I've said before, I was fine with 15 when I was playing with the A9 III. You drop it into like the medium mode or whatever and you're floating just above 10. It's enough. It's like it means a couple more hits of a bird that takes off and stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Um but you also need that thing to be faster so you're not getting crazy rolling shutter and stuff on those really fast birds and your pans and everything like that. So um, I would like to see legitimately them figure out whatever the Goldilocks sensor is to give them the edge in video, like they're going to have to because it's a hybrid camera. It has to be a hybrid camera, especially if they are literally not going to do an A7S III ever again. Which really I don't support them doing now that you look at like the Z6 III, which is like basically my dream A7S4 almost, albeit with like a sensor that's not as nice as the A7S III. So like you're taking a huge hit there, but still, I think you're gonna want to see faster, potentially less, if that means like less megapixels, if that means having faster, still 4K or beyond, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
if I would like to see them be able to super sample their, I want at least a higher resolution going to 4K and it be clean and not like line skipped and all that stuff. I want like clean, good video,
Yeah, I
etc.
think in an A7 V, I think they have an opportunity to use that sensor design like the Z6 III has. I think what is it, the half global shutter, like unique
Stacked,
sensor
half stacked.
half
Yeah.
stacked shutter that the Z6 III has. If I'm not mistaken, Sony designs those sensors, and I think there's opportunity there for the A7 V where it fits in the lineup to kind of pursue that route more
Okay.
because it kind of does the best of both. It's very fast. It's a slight hit to dynamic range, but hardly noticeable, right? So you get a lot from that technology. So I'm just curious if they would use the A7 V as an opportunity to develop that technology a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised to see a half stacked sensor on the A7 V.
Riddle me this. What about a 24 megapixel stacked Exmor RS from the A9 II? Because
I just
the A9 III is running a global now, so it's not going to even touch that sensor still, and they can just eat all of those A9 II sensors, and they probably have them, and they're probably cheaper now.
I think we talked about this before. I don't see a world where the resolution comes down. I think they've locked themselves in 33, and if it comes down, that's going to be its own drama, you know.
Let them have it. It's a
Sure.
A7. It's an A7 with a stacked sensor.
Yeah.
Now you're getting a $4,500 camera's sensor in your sub $3,000 camera.
Yeah. You and I understand that like clearly, like, but I think it's going to be hard to market.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's not necessarily an entry level camera. So I don't know. That'd be a weird one for me. I would be totally fine with 33 megapixels, but it needs to be faster. We've said this before. You know what? You're probably in the same boat as I am. I'm waiting for this Sony A7 V announcement, and if it doesn't have if I don't get confidence that it's faster, I'm looking at a ZF. And I'm just gonna do it,
Yeah.
and I don't even care. Like on paper, it's probably not the best camera for all the things that I do, but I've been lusting over a ZF for too long now, and I just need it. So
I mean, there's something to be said for like the joy you get when using a camera.
yes,
And the form factor of a camera. I actually enjoy the A6700 with a tiny lens. I like
yeah,
this as a camera.
I miss the
And
A7C.
and I'm starting to shoot this more than, the A7 IV or the A7S III on my day-to-day because I just like it. It's like
Yeah.
incognito. I don't look like a photographer. I'm gonna have to beep that out. That's unfortunate. But yeah, it is what it is. That's how I know that the episode's starting to get long because I'll start cursing more.
Yeah. And on that note too, like I again spent a good portion of a night the other night looking at D850 prices
Yeah.
because in my mind it's like every year I contemplate grabbing a D850 again. The longer I go, the fewer good condition bodies are going to be out there. That camera was such a joy to use. The ergonomics, it was a big camera, yes, but man, you got an incredible sensor in it. It was so sharp. The illuminated buttons, perfect camera, perfect DSLR. But we don't need to go down that road again.
Yeah. No, I'm
So
with you.
I don't know, man. It's A75 announcement. Just do the announcement now. I need to know now
Yeah.
if it's going to be a good camera.
Sony already is getting a good chunk of my money this year, so if they just can go ahead and tell me which camera I'm buying, if it's going to be an A9 III or if it's going to be an A7 V, that'd be great. Because
Yeah.
I'll start pulling triggers. Because there's a pretty slick chance that 28 to 70 is happening sooner than later. I was going to buy a 35
Oh,
this
dang.
week, and I decided that's $700 I can throw right at that lens. So
Dang.
Yeah, that'll probably be my only lens. I think the only lens purchase of the year. And one more thing before we totally send it for the rest of the episode. There's this silly little camera that Lumix just put out called the ZS99, and
What?
it's garbage. Just a little point and shoot, compact, 24 to 720 millimeter equivalent lens,
Oh, I saw this camera. Yeah.
which is dumb. But I was having this like thing. The reason why I wanted the A6700 and I was going to get like a 100 to 400 or something was because I wanted the ability to get a bird when we don't have all of our stuff and have a smaller setup that we can take and we care like a little less about. But
Yep.
then I was like, why would I spend $800 on a lens that does exactly what my 70 to 200 is doing with the teleconverter? It might be marginally sharper, but then it might not be quite as fast as the Sony lens. And like there's
Right.
just going to be traded blows. And I already own that lens. I've already repaired that lens once. I love that lens. And I was very careful with things. Like we're not like doing crazy adventure birding. Like it's fine. I think we're gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Just run that lens. Grab that little pocket camera for when we're just literally not able to take bigger cameras. 700 millimeter equivalent, dude. Like we just
When
want to
I
spot.
saw that comparison
Yeah,
between what was it? Was he comparing the iPhone in that
yeah,
moment to like the 3x or whatever the
yeah.
longest telephoto
But
zoom
the
on the
digital
iPhone is?
zoom all the way out to the same
Oh, it was
thing.
so clearly better. I was
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yep.
okay. I mean, if you're gonna market the camera, market that because that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and it's like, is it going to be breathtaking? No. Can it shoot raw? Yeah. And can I at least get like an ID on a bird from 700 mil and crop in even more after that, just a little bit? It's 20 megapixels, so I can crop like to a 10 megapixel shot for like a good bird ID. And that's kind of more what I was doing with the compromise of that other lens.
Sure.
That's going to be a sub $500, just under like 497 or whatever. That's going to be a relatively cheap thing. It's pocket sized. It's even smaller
Yeah.
than the A6700 without a lens.
Well, that's a super cool camera for street photography. It clearly had some of that in mind in design. So
Yeah, and I think
that's
that
cool.
might just be fun. I think I'm just going to eat it. I'm going to have Elle keep using that teleconverter and the 70 to 200. It's working great. It's super light. She loves how light it is. And I think basically anything else, I was starting to talk myself into the 150 to 500 from Tamron, and I was like, if we're going to buy another lens, we should go a little longer. But then they get heavier. And I
Yeah.
just don't think like she doesn't want to go from 2.8 pounds or whatever to 4.5 pounds. She doesn't want to do that. I don't want to make her do that. I don't want to have all that heavy gear myself. So why? I already have the two bird setups that we need to enjoy birding.
I had one final question for you,
Yeah.
and it's a piggyback off of one thing we talked about a couple weeks ago, and it was Sigma announcing they had a lens design coming
Yeah.
that would intrigue portrait shooters and wildlife shooters.
Yeah.
And I was curious if you had an idea for what that could be.
So is this the one? So a couple of different people had said something about telephotos. Did Sigma claim that it was a zoom that has never existed before?
They did.
Okay, because I was wondering if it was them
Or,
or Canon.
Yeah, I think it was a lens design that has never existed before, talking about focal length.
Right. Because like
I think that's right.
Initially, I'd go, okay, so it's obviously like a 120 or a 100 to 300 f2.8.
That's where my mind was.
Right? Like, because if like I'm thinking a portrait shooter, like it can't be that
Yeah.
long, but it has to be like relatively fast and in like a good portrait range. 100 to 200 f2.8 plus birds, sports, it's a killer lens.
Yeah.
But didn't they make I think they made a 120 to 300 f2.8 at some point.
Sigma.
I think. And Sigma 120 to 300. Yeah, f2.8 DGOS for like Canon and stuff.
Well, that one I totally missed that one.
It's like a $3,000 lens. It's an old DSLR lens.
And that's what I was going to ask you, if what price that, but I didn't realize that this already existed.
So so it was $3,600, and it was a sports lens, DGOS HSM, 120 to 300 f2.8. But so now I'm kind of thinking they're like, it's never been designed before. Is it 100 to 300?
Is it like 50 to 300 or like does it even like for a portrait? 100's a little tight for some people, you know.
I guess if it's variable zoom or variable aperture, I could see it being like 50 to 300. But I think a 50 to 300 f2.8 would be massive.
Oh, I think it would have to be pretty.
So it'd have to be
chunky.
But and then a portrait shooter wouldn't want it.
No, but like then you have to think Yeah, you're correct.
Like
maybe in their mind, they're
yeah.
like the specs work, but practically,
Right.
it probably wouldn't be great.
So you got to
So
find
I
that
don't
middle ground.
know. Yeah,
But
what
like
is that middle ground?
they could, or maybe I don't know, maybe they did something disgusting, like did a 150 to 300 f2, something massive. But
F2, Jesus,
yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what that could be, but that was where my head went first.
But it has to differentiate itself enough from a 70 to 200 because
Yeah.
they recently put out one for DGDN version 2, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then also the 28 to 105 is great, so it's got to differentiate from there. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, 28 to 105 came out very successful, 2.8 all the way through. How do you piggyback off of that? And if they were going to make like a Trinity, a lens that pairs well for someone who has a 28 to 105 and nothing else, but
Dude,
wants the reach.
if they do a 105 to 300 f2.8, that's crazy.
Right. That's where my mind went. So I'm like,
but if
for
you
$3,600,
but if you say portrait, I think it has to at least be 2.8, and if you say wildlife, it has to go to at least 300.
300. That's where my mind was.
So I don't know. That'd be a pretty nuts. That'd be a crazy combo.
Yeah.
300 f2.8's like wildlife sports dream. It's like where a lot of people say, like, that prime is where people say, like, all of those other lenses, scrap them, get the 3 or the 400.
I would even be cool with like a 105 to 300 f2 to f4, like if it's variable but in that kind of range. Maybe it could work.
Yeah, I mean, again, it hasn't been existed, so
like a 300 f4 would still be sick. Right, like that would be great. So to have that kind of variability, and that's a price I'm sure a lot of people, $3,600 for a hypothetical 105 to 300 2 to f4. I think a lot of people would pay that.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But
I didn't know that other one existed. That's incredible.
Yeah, I remember looking at it once because I was like, "This is actually insane." And I think Canon made like a 120 to 300? Like recently,
I think so.
for the R mount.
I think so.
RF. It's not coming up. 100 to 3. So yeah, they did make a 100 to 300 f2.8, which is crazy. So maybe it's 105 to 300. Maybe it's 105 to 325 or 350. or maybe they make a fast 100 to 400.
I think the bottom line is Sigma's proven they're willing to do some crazy designs that work really well. They have great manufacturing capability, and the very top of that company, I think it's very interesting for him to say something like portrait shooters and wildlife shooters are going to love this unique lens that's never existed before. Like, ooh, put that bug in people's head. Sigma's just doing all the right things. When do we stop saying the name Sigma?
I don't know. I think Kazuto just has the Dragon Balls, and he just asks Shenron to like devise a new lens every 6 months, and that's why he gets them, because like, I don't know, they just keep popping them out like it's nothing.
It's
They're
black
like,
magic.
Yeah, another brand new lens nobody's heard of. That's awesome, perfect. For under $1,800, and you're just like, oh Jesus, okay, shit, sick. But yeah,
suppose that's where we end another show talking about Sigma.
Yeah, there you go, Kazuto. The gifts did make it to my house. I appreciate you very much. No relation to Sigma, unfortunately, because I would probably shill for them if I could. I did return their lens. I currently don't own a Sigma lens.
But you also said that you would buy it again.
Yeah, potentially, but I definitely am buying the 28 to 70. So
sure, all right, but you didn't have to say that.
I know. Alrighty. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you're still listening, let's get engaged with what you're photographizing. Let us know what's up. Ask us any questions you want. What do you want to see in the show? I'm open to everything. We just kind of wing it and have these conversations because we think they're fun, and we hope you do too. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, share it around. 2025 is going to be a good year for us. I think we've got some cool plans that we've been talking about to kind of grow the community a little bit, or at least between you and I, there's going to be some cool collaboration, I think. So share the video, share the podcast with some people who you might think are interested. I know there's lots of photographers out there who know other photographers. If you're in a photo class, you know some people. Share it around.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
See you guys.